Tonight on Secure the Continent, we'll look at security situations in Imo State, where just a few days ago, at least 8 police officers were ambushed and killed, with many states also recorded various degrees of losses of their security personnel. There are more details for you in this intro package. Take a listen.
When those who secure the lives and properties of the people face insecurity themselves, it points to a difficult situation for a nation. Nigerian police officials have come under pressure many times for failing in their duties to protect the people, but who ask the important question of their own security. Just some days ago, at least 8 police officers were killed in an ambush, with many states also recording various degrees of losses of their security officials. This is fast becoming a bone in the throat for the government, as it not only reduces the confidence of the people to go about their daily responsibilities, but also sends a wrong signal to many young Nigerians who may be interested in joining the police force. Currently, Nigeria has thousands of personnel which are still below what is necessary for the nation's population. More than 200 police officers have been killed in the last 1 year, with many others severely injured. Police establishments have come under attack, and this call for urgent actions from the government. The force closest to the people must have better security in order to perform better. Else, how will Nigeria be a secure nation for all?
Joining me tonight at Secure the Continent for this discussion on the security situation in Nigeria, I have Adekoya Onyekachi, a security expert who joins us from London in the United Kingdom. I also have Timothy Chimezie Iwuagwu, a fellow and national spokesman of the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria, and who joins us from Lagos. And I also have Okonkwo, a security analyst. And I believe we have the Honourable Commissioner of Information of Imo State with us, Honourable Declan Emelumba. A warm welcome to you all, gentlemen, and thanks for joining me on tonight's Secure the Continent.
Good evening. It's a pleasure, Gbenga.
Yes. I'm happy to have you all join us. So I'd like to start with the Honourable Commissioner of Information in Imo State, Honourable Declan Emelumba. Given the recent attacks in Imo State, what specific factors in the security landscape of the region contributed to the successful ambush of the Joint Security Task Force? I mean, the loss of 8 security personnel is quite a large number. And what's the current situation of things in that neighborhood?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. But I want to, first of all, correct the impression that 8 people lost their lives. I had, when we were doing the summary, I think you mentioned 8 people, and they were all policemen. It's not 8 people, there are 5, and just from because they just security personnel patrol team.
But 5 or 8. But thank you for that correction. Every loss of life is regrettable and is a sad occurrence. But thank you for the correction, Honourable Commissioner.
Even if it's one person, is regrettable, very, very painful. But it's important to put the record straight. And it's like I said, they join security personnel comprising the police, army, the National Defense Corps, and I think was the Civil Defense Corps. So they were ambushed. Actually, what happened was that they were on patrol, and somebody in Okada came and tended to be giving them a tip-off that a petrol station down the road was about to be attacked by a hoodlum. And so they volunteered to lead them to the petrol station. And then as they were going, they got to a very bad spot of the road where no matter the kind of vehicle, it must slow down. Unknown to them that they were already ambushed. So when they got there, they opened fire meanwhile, the other man had disappeared. They opened fire on them, and that was what happened. And then 5 of them died. 8, they were 13 in number. 8 of them actually escaped. And as we speak, 2 of the gunmen have been arrested, and they are cooperating with the police in their investigation. So it's painful. The governor has extended his condolences and sympathies to the bereaved families, and has also ordered for very expeditious investigation on the matter. And I believe that with 2 of them already in the net, I don't think it will take time before the rest will be apprehended.
Now, Emelumba, having given that background, there's also news saying that, you know, residents of that area have deserted and a lot of shops and commercial activities have closed for a while now because they are fearing for the fear of reprisal attacks by military personnel who might come on a sort of revenge mission. What's the situation of things in the locality as we speak?
I'm not getting you at all. What's the summary of what you said to you?
Yes, I did say that there are fears that residents feared reprisal attacks from security operatives who might want to avenge the killings of their colleagues and comrades. What's the current situation of things in the locality where this recent attack took place?
Well, like I said, this is a joint patrol team, and the people have been carrying this rumor that the army went on a reprisal attack and burnt houses. That is not confirmed. I'm not aware of that. I think with the intervention of the government and with the appeal from the governor, I think the situation is still calm, and I believe that it is being handled. What is important is that those who committed this crime are being hunted with every amount of seriousness. So I think at the end of the day, I don't see anything going out of hand in that area.
Now, finally, Honourable Declan Emelumba, before I let you go, is there anything lacking in the Imo State security apparatus that you might need federal might and power to assist in? What are some of the challenges the men of the Imo State Police Command face in effectively discharging their duties, and what's the governor doing about it?
Well, I wouldn't really say this that is lacking, because I know that His Excellency, the Governor of Imo State, distinguished Honorable Oduma, has done everything to provide all the necessary logistics, including armored vehicles, including patrol vehicles, communication gadgets, and other logistics to the security agencies. And I think they are making effective use of it. And that explains why the security situation in Imo has come down reasonably. From 2021 until the whole of that 2021 or so, the situation was very, very terrible, and it was frightening. But through the spirited effort of the government and the support, logistic support to the security agencies, the situation has come down. That explains why so many high-profile organizations like the Guild of Editors held conferences in Imo State twice within a year, and chartered accountants and so many other such high-profile organizations. Now, what is certain is, like Shakespeare will say, security gives way to conspiracy. So no matter what you do, you cannot rule out that occasionally there will be such surprises, particularly when people are ambushed and so on. But that is not to say that it is as a result of something lacking. No, I don't think so. It is just that it's a national trajectory in security management. Everywhere in the world, you can always see one or two security breaches. And at any rate, from each one, they gather more experience and become better equipped to combat crime. So I think that the government and the security agencies in Imo State are on top of it, and they are doing their very best, and they have all it takes. They have all the necessary equipment and encouragement to really fight insecurity in the state. So I don't think there's any cause to be worried or to think that something that ought to be done has not been done. I'm not saying that everything is perfect. No, it can never be. But I think that to the best of the ability of the government and the security agencies, they are trying their best.
Thank you very much. I do appreciate your optimistic tone, Honourable Declan Emelumba. Thank you very much for joining us tonight on Secure the Continent. We do appreciate your insight. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Now I'd like to bring in Alex Okonkwo into the conversation. Still talking about the attack or ambush of Nigerian security operatives in Imo State. You just heard my interview with the Honourable Commissioner of Information in Imo State. He says, you know, there's no cause for alarm, and there are things on the ground that will, you know, help stem the tide of insecurity in the state. Now, Alex, beyond the immediate response, what long-term strategies should security agencies, not just in Imo, across the whole country, to prevent similar attacks on security personnel in the future? I did read a tweet, not a tweet anymore, it's called X these days, and someone was suggesting that, you know, even the patrol vehicles that most Nigerian security operatives use, the pickup trucks with personnel just sitting in the open, are not fit for purpose. He said that it makes them sitting ducks and makes them very susceptible to attacks from, you know, from criminal elements in society. And there's also the use of weapons. I believe the standard issue of most Nigerian police officers is an AK-47, which is quite cumbersome to use in very tight situations. And he also recommended the use of service pistols. In Benin Republic, for example, the gendarme, they use service rifles, and they have a side pistol. Going from what we know, how do we prevent similar attacks in the future?
Gbenga, this is a lovely question, and it was nice to have the commissioner speak a little bit about it. But the problem here is we keep going around the same cycle. It's like a cat running. The cat that's running around the rats in its area. We keep forgetting that you cannot actually affect security without the people you're trying to secure. So we should come back, we should demilitarize a little bit our actions and socialize a bit more what we're trying to do. Even if you have all the pistols of this world, you will need to do a bit more intelligence. And intelligence requires the local people. Yes, apart from the GPS and all the satellite, you will need local people to be on your side. The people you are securing will have to believe that you, as a representative of authority, are on their side of the situation. So there's a lot we're not doing, but it's not just the Southeast, it's all over Nigeria. There's a lot we're not doing. We should actually be working on intelligence-driven and people-driven policies that will help in security. I've been saying it in this program and in other programs. The security agents are the last chain of the Security Act. There are some other things we should be doing. What are the traditional rulers doing? What are the clerics doing? Everywhere in Nigeria you have churches. What are they doing? What are people doing at the family level, at the school level? What are we doing in terms of security? Security is an all-encompassing thing. We cannot leave it to the joint task forces to man insecurity in an area where maybe they don't even know. Don't forget, these soldiers and policemen are posted. They could be Yorubas, they could be from Fulani, they could be Hausas, and they are posted to the southeast where they don't probably speak the language. So if you don't do an all-encompassing act or actions, you will not be able to get security the way we think it is. But it's a work in progress anyway. We thank the commissioner for coming to give some light on it. But these are things that we've been doing in different states and they're not working. So yes, it's fine to have different equipments, quick reaction equipments like pistol and all that, but they were ambushed. He said it here on your program. Somebody actually took them there. An Okada driver took them there. That means somebody local is a complice. That will not change no matter the arms that you have. So I would say, based on your question, let's do more intelligence-driven actions, and let's do more people-oriented actions. People need to see that the person wearing the uniform is working for them, not against them. Don't forget, the last line of authority is the man in uniform. So if you're angry somewhere in Okigwe or in Bano, you will take it upon the person wearing uniform. You cannot go to Abuja. So you take it upon the person you're seeing in uniform. That was what happened.
Talking about what happened, Alex, I'd like to bring Adekoya into the conversation. A warm welcome to you, once again. Now, are there any historical factors that might be fueling this insecurity in Imo State? And if so, how can they be addressed? Because things don't happen out of the vacuum. Your co-panelist, Alex, did suggest sort of intelligence-driven policies that would help security. And he also did mention that, you know, it's nice to have the buy-in of the local people. And this brings to my question the issue of this debate on state policing. Do you think if we adopt state policing, it might help mitigate some of this security lapses we've seen in different parts of the country? Adekoya.
Okay. Thank you for the question, and thank you for bringing the Honorable Commissioner. I was hoping he would have stayed online a bit more to perhaps share more light on how many policemen have died in that part of Imo State in particular since the inception of the current administration there in Imo State. And I would have also loved to ask him if he thinks it's a coincidence that the bulk of the issues are happening just about where the governor hails from. Yeah, so those questions, hopefully the Honorable Commissioner can come back on air and talk about it, because he's spoken very loftily about what the government in Imo is doing. But it would appear, rather sadly, that since the inception of the administration, insecurity has worsened in Imo. And in the run-up to the election, the off-cycle election in Imo, clearly we have now seen a renewed spike. I'd had reason to draw a bit of some connection between the state of insecurity and the kind of politicking we play in Nigeria. Typical case in point would be Imo State. And, you know, so some questions have to be asked. Now, I heard the thing about intelligence. No, intelligence is not the problem. The DSS has a station officer in every local government in Nigeria, so there's intelligence. I heard the comments about the AK-47 and service pistols. Why that may be right, but within context, if you're operating in a high-risk environment like Olu in particular, and those axes of Imo that are challenged, then no, you cannot do a service pistol there. You can probably do a service pistol in a city center like Owerri. Yes. But once you begin to enter a high-risk environment, you know, you need to review your munitions. So the question is, those policemen that were killed, did they have PPEs, protective equipments? Do they have bulletproof vests? Were they probably kitted? What was the vehicle they were in like? Is there a vehicle that is shaped more like an e-vehicle? Because I reckon they were going on a fighting patrol. Yes, the vehicle can make them a sitting duck, which is why the counter-terrorism police force is best positioned to deal with the issues of counter-terrorism and not the Nigerian army. So some of the issues you have there have been made worsen by the type of kinetic force that has been deployed. If the police had been the ones to move in with their training in counter-terrorism, then they would have been conducting pinpoint surgical operations within the communities, not the typical search and destroy mission that the army will go out on. So there are a number of moving parts. The police and some of the NSCDC and the personnel killed are probably not trained and shaped for counter-terrorism operation because you should know better. And this happens everywhere in Nigeria, happens in the Northwest, Northeast, North Central, where our men go out on a fighting patrol but flying blind. So they don't know what's ahead of them. They don't have the foresight to know, because you should know by training what a typical ambush point would be like. Once you begin to approach that point, you should be in a heightened state of security. So there are a number of moving parts. On your question on historical or empirical, I just said the governor and his team may have to answer why insecurity has worsened since they took office. Yeah.
I mean, the commissioner said it's a one-off, and, you know, these things happen. So I hope we can get him back online, or would deal with this some other time. Thank you very much, Adekoya. I'd like to bring in our third panelist into this conversation, Timothy Chimezie Iwuagwu, a fellow and national spokesman for the Institute of Safety Professionals of Nigeria. One welcome to you, Timothy.
Good evening.
Good evening to you. Now, Timothy, could you delve into the specific challenges faced by security forces when dealing with unidentified gunmen and insecurity in Imo State? I did ask the Honourable Commissioner what they lack, and it seems to respond to say that, things are quite okay, and, His Excellency, the Governor of Imo State, is on top of the situation. Now, what challenges do you think they face, and how can these challenges be overcome? There's also the million-dollar question. We talk about unidentified gunmen. There's intelligence. These people are not ghosts, like Alex said earlier. So, who are these unknown gunmen, and what's their end game? What do they want?
I appreciate you. And these questions are serious questions that have kept coming, and sometimes persons within the officialdom, within security circle, want to sound a bit politically correct, but the situation has not reduced in the simplest term. Rather, we've seen an increase in this thing, and then we are seeing the level of bitterness within society. Truly speaking, what we have now, except we just want to put it in the mildest form, is as good as guerrilla warfare. And it's unfortunate, even on radio and television, when you talk, as far back as 2018, when we said Nigeria was at war, somebody asked me on television, why are you saying Nigeria is at war? We are not at war. And I asked him, what's the definition of war? If we are not at war, where are we bringing back dead bodies from the front lines in Northwest? Why are we bringing in dead bodies? Why are we replenishing the fallen ones with fresh troops? So we're at war. Now, the war, the militancy, the insurgency, and all this thing across the country has so expanded that we cannot isolate an area and say this is where it is happening. Now, the one of Imo State, we know the epicenter of what we have there is within the home town of our beloved governor. And the issue of continuous escalation of this unacceptable and undesirable situation is something that shouldn't be addressed with political correctness as trying to please the system, but we all are part of that system. What we have in our hands is so precarious, and then the way to solve it requires all hands on deck. Somebody mentioned here that he said, what are the churches doing? What are the community leaders doing? The paramount leaders? But the question is, are the paramount leaders still in charge of their people? Have the people not lost confidence and faith in the capacity of their elders to adequately represent them? Do their elders actually have that conviction within them that the government can even listen to them? Any person who tries to speak truth to power will be seen as an enemy of the system. And once it is that way, a lot of people tend to be quiet. And silence in this case can be very dangerous. And I will appeal to government to look for avenues of hearing from people who may want to conceal their identity so that they can release very vital information that will become part of the management tools vis-a-vis security in the state. Imo State, when we talk of per capita crime or per capita mortality associated with this type of situation, Imo State has a very low figure, low percentage, comparatively though. Imo State has been a very peaceful place. From history, Igbo land has been very peaceful. And we have an amiable governor, a governor that spoke very well, started very well, and suddenly everywhere busted into confusion when people from particularly his own community, his own environment, started fighting.
Okay.
Well, we often say, hello?
Thank you, Timothy. I just want to bring back Alex into the conversation. Thank you for that overview that you've given us. Now, Alex, can you provide insight into the impact of such attacks on the psyche of the local population's trust in security agencies and the willingness to cooperate with them? Because at one end, you know, you have those non-gunmen that are using the territory to launch attacks against the state. And at the same time, they're apprehensive of the reprisal attacks in some cases, which comes from security operatives. So what are the consequences of this attacks on the local population, and what does he do to the psyche of the locals there?
The consequences are terrible. They are no different from other parts of the Southeast or Nigeria. We've had youths migrating. And generally from the Southeast is the best youths that are living. Those who can be truants or those who can work with the agitators are staying behind. So what is happening is that you're emptying the vase with the best of your population. Businesses, anybody will tell you in the Southeast, businesses are moving across the Niger to go to Delta states, to Edo states to invest. The Nigerians that are traveling out of the country, check it out. You see a lot of people from the Southeast region, the younger ones, the ones that can actually change the country and change the situation of the Southeast. We already have cases where the commercial hubs are going down. Anybody that knows Onisha, Nnewi and Aba will remember how those places were bubbling. Everybody that knows Owerri will remember the nightlife in Owerri. So there's nothing to gain for anybody well-meaning about what is going on in the country, and especially in the Southeast at this moment. Of course, Gbenga, none of us can lie here to say these things are not politically oriented. It is not exactly random that it is hyping in intensity as we go close to the November elections. There is obviously a cause and effect with the elections. So,
I mean, but why the governor's hometown? You think, I mean, they will be more sympathetic to the plight of their townsman being the chief executive officer of the state?
No, not necessarily. We are talking of politics here, so it's by interest. You don't know whether that used to be a PDP enclave or APC enclave. You don't know. It's a bit more technical than that. It is not necessarily, when we come into politics, it's more about interest, like you know. What I was going to say is that it is being politicized. I'm not saying actually the senators or whatever are playing politics. It is being politicized. So you are saying you belong to this, you belong to that, you belong to that, and that is causing mayhem in this current dispensation. What I'm saying is that we will not be able to tackle insecurity the way we all desire if we don't bring these things down to the ground. The youths in the Southeast are totally misinformed, and they are living on a misconception. The history books are absent. Nobody really knows what happened during the Biafran. I'm talking of this generation. They don't know what really happened with the Biafran War and the aftermath of the Biafran War and the causes of the Biafran War. People are not being informed. Mr. Timothy was highlighting to it, and he's very correct. A lot of these people I mentioned earlier are absent, both physically and mentally, in the lives of these young people. How are you going to change the Southeast without the people from the Southeast? No matter the amount of soldiers you send to the Southeast. I mean, at the end of the day, you are trying to protect people who go there. The markets are empty, Gbenga. Who are those going to run the markets? Who are those going to import? Who are those going to invest? Go and check the figures on the investments in the Southeast in the last 3 years. And Mr. Timothy mentioned it. As of 2019, the Southeast was the Imo State was the safest state in Nigeria. Go and check it. We had less than 90 deaths.
And the data is there.
To terrorism.
Yes. The data is there, and the real life implications, far-reaching implications of the insecurity in the Southeast. Before we go on a break, I'd like to bring Adekoya back into the conversation. Adekoya in Birmingham. Adekoya, what measures should be taken to ensure the safety and security of residents who choose to relocate from affected communities like Umuziela, Owerri?
Well, if they are relocating, they've already taken one of the options of risk management, which is risk avoidance. So that's okay. That's a choice. They also have the right to move within Nigeria. So that's the best they can do. If you're talking about the people who remain within those areas, it's quite challenging to see what can be done, really. Nigeria is not structured in a way that it considers...
Sorry to interrupt you. To add this, in terms of community engagement, what strategies can also be employed to foster a sense of security and collaboration between residents and security forces, and understanding the dynamic of deployment of security forces in Nigeria, that they are not necessarily from the area, and some of them, quite a lot of them, wouldn't even understand the local language. So how do you foster a sense of security and collaboration with some of these challenges?
Yeah, you just permit me to be a bit cynical. I think it was Abacha, this statement attributed to Abacha, who said if an insurgency or a riot lasts beyond 2 days, check and see that the government has an interest there, or somebody in government does. It's challenging when you seemingly have an interested party in some of the issues happening, also be tasked with resolving the problem occasioned directly or indirectly by some political machination in the state. So if you ask the solution way forward, leadership, the governor is the chief security officer of the state. And no, I would not say that because he doesn't have the police under his control, therefore he should be excused or absolved of his duties. If he can't stand the heat, he should respectfully resign or return the salaries for which he's paid. The politicians know how to mobilize the state for an election, but it beats me when they cannot mobilize the state to conscientize the people to ensure security for every person. I mean, it beats me. So you cannot take out politics and the politicians and the political class and the political elite from some of the issues that happen within the state. So leadership is required. The conscientization of the community is required. The community can act as a force multiplier to even the few police that you have. But when we regionalize politics and we play uzobuzo of politics and we ethnicize or regionalize politics just for the benefit of the political class, we allow ourselves suffer the divide and rule mechanism for some of these people, and the people themselves suffer. So short of leadership from the center, the people must organize themselves and band themselves into vigilante groups and resort to self-help. At least they are allowed within the remit of the Constitution the right to self-defense. And so if the communities, affected communities, can rise up and form their vigilante groups and community talk to community, because security comes in a concentric layer, layer upon layer. Your immediate community, the next community, the next community, and then they have to form like a quick response mechanism so that if 10 people are moving in certain directions, 200 people can move in that direction and overwhelm them and nip their movement to the bud. There are some communities in the Southeast that are not necessarily impacted by some of these issues because the communities themselves resolve, that yes, Biafra is Biafra. The agitation for the Southeastern presidency is that. But that does not mean that, the people should not be able to lead a peaceable life within their community. So people have learned to separate the agitations for inclusion in the Nigerian political system from the actions of armed criminal groups, cultists, and the foot soldiers of the politicians, who have their own machinations other than the interests of the people. So it's a very tough question. How do you fight the state? That's basically you're asking me. But to the extent that the state and the government draws its powers from the people, sadly and truly, the advice of the former Minister of Defense, who says that the people should rise up with sticks and resort to self-help, may be the way to go. But within the ambit of the law, they must organize themselves and form an expanded community cooperation initiative to address the issue of security without totally relying on a help that seems not to be coming from the center. That would be my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much, Adekoya Onyekachi. A fine place to go on a break. You're watching Secure the Continent on News Central Television, and we're talking about the attacks on security operatives in Imo State, which left at least 5 security personnel dead. We'll switch gears when we return from this break and x-ray the first 100 days of the Tinubu presidency in terms of security. Do stay with us. We'll be right back after this quick timeout.